Hi again, this is Ralph with Stroke Warrior Radio. Our guest today is talking about nutrition and diet. Our guest is Michelle Ruthenstein, is that correct?
Routhenstein, but that's fine.
Rosenstein. Okay. I'm usually not good with the names, but anyway, you're a cardi cardiology dietitian, preventive cardiology nutritionist, registered dietitian nutritionist, and certified diabetes educator. Tell me what that has to do with stroke.
Great question. So 87% of strokes are ischemic strokes. And what that means is it's happening in the blood vessel. A lot of time plaque can build up, blood can happen into the arteries, and that can go into the brain, leading to a stroke. This is all in the vascular section. And so a stroke is a cardiovascular condition and has many cardiovascular and vascular risk factors. So we can prevent recurring strokes and strokes in the first place with preventative nutrition and science-based nutrition that addresses vascular health. And so a lot of times many people will think, okay, the stroke is in the brain, so it's a neurology, it's just neurology based. We know that blood vessel health is paramount in reducing stroke risk. When we look at the research, 80% of it is preventable through science-based nutrition. And so my scope of practice as a cardiovascular dietitian is optimizing your blood vessel health, your heart function to prevent any issues going forward. And we do this through personalizing nutrition and making sure that it is science-based and focusing on what you're adding to the diet versus what you're taking away.
I've always been kind of, I guess the word is confused because everybody says it's a brain attack, but then again, they ask you about blood pressure, they ask you about your cholesterol and all of that. Why is there such a disparity in knowledge about having vascular and stroke together?
I think because when you think of a heart attack, right, you think, okay, the word heart is in there. This is happening in the brain. And a lot of times we disassociate different parts of our body. Like, okay, kidney disease is one thing, liver disease is another thing, heart disease is another thing, but we are one unit. And our vascular health brings blood flow to our brain. So it should be together. Many times when someone has a stroke, they'll be seen by the cardiologist and the neurologist. The issue sometimes, though, is are they talking together? Or are they talking separately? And we need to bridge this gap because we are one unit and we need good blood flow to the brain to prevent a stroke. And that's coming from the cardiovascular system. If it's clogged with plaque and high cholesterol or blood sugar, or if we have tension in the artery from high blood pressure, that's not going to allow for good blood flow to actually bring our brain the blood supply it needs.
Okay. And I guess what we're talking about today, what we'll talk about today is about not only prevention after a stroke, but for some of the listeners that haven't had a stroke, prevention before as well, correct?
Exactly. So primary, secondary prevention, we have the ability to take an empowered approach to prevent a stroke before it happens or a second one from happening.
Okay. What is the best nutrition for stroke patients?
We need to be focusing on what you're eating. So it's important that we're really nourishing the body, both from a complex carbohydrate, a protein standpoint, and a heart healthy fat standpoint. A lot of times we focus on, oh, you got to be on a low sodium diet. You can't eat this. You can't eat this. When you end up looking at what you can eat, you avoid the ability to realize what you need to eat. So for instance, if someone has high blood pressure, and that's one of the main reasons for the stroke, or let's say they had atrial fibrillation, we want to assess what is the deficiencies that may be causing the arteries to be in a more constricted state. So with high blood pressure, many people have been told follow a low sodium diet. And while there is truth to that, what you need to actually pay more attention to is the sodium to potassium ratio. Sodium constricts the arteries, potassium vasodilates and opens the arteries. If you have more potassium through food, specifically food, your arteries will open up. If your arteries open up, less pressure for your heart to do its job, more easy blood flow, lower blood pressure. That's one mechanism in the blood pressure story, though. So there's a lot of complex things that are happening, but we need to be assessing what are you missing in your diet that your body needs. Your heart muscle needs a lot of nutrients for it to work, from selenium, CoQ10, copper, zinc. And if you're deficient in those, your heart muscle is going to overwork. And at a certain time, it can't do its job as effectively anymore. So I want people to be focusing on what they're eating versus what they're not eating. And I would caution against just going to the pharmacy and buying a bunch of supplements, because those things are not how our bodies are intended to eat them. When we eat food, it's in a whole food matrix that allows for our body to absorb it, metabolize it, and utilize it. A lot of supplements can actually increase plaque formation in the arteries, can increase blood pressure, can tax the liver and the kidneys. And a lot of them are synthetic. So they add a lot more fillers and things in the body, which could put negative effects on the vascular system. So we need to be adding in foods, and we need to be doing it in the right volume for a therapeutic effect for you.
Okay. Is, uh, yeah, is the, what's the risk of another stroke? I think you mentioned this already, after a stroke. Do you know?
Yeah, so a lot of times when someone has a stroke, a first stroke, their risk increases substantially in the next 5 years. And that's because there's a lot of inflammation that typically follows a stroke. Your body's having this inflammatory response and it's recovering. And so we really need to focus on an anti-inflammatory diet and addressing inflammation and oxidative stress, which increases the risk of another stroke in that 5-year time period.
Is it true that nutrition or lack of quality nutrition can, number one, increase your recovery time, uh, also cause you to gain weight or lose weight because of the sedentary lifestyle after a stroke? I mean, some people don't get as enthusiastic in their physical therapy and stuff. Does nutrition play a part in that? Energy, the cognitive, those kind of things?
Oh, 100%. So nutrition plays a role in recovery from a standpoint of anything from muscle mass, right? So if you're being more sedentary, you're not able to move as well, you could be losing weight and unintentional body weight that can actually be muscle mass. And that can lead to malnutrition as well. You don't need to be very thin to be malnourished. Malnourished is essentially when your body is not absorbing the nutrients, or you're not eating the nutrients in the right quantities for it to thrive. So there are some people who get almost this thing called cachexia, which is this, or sarcopenia, where they lose muscle mass, but there's also obesity sarcopenia, where you aren't thin, but you are in a bigger body, but you've lost a lot of muscles and a lot of nutrition because your body's in this hyper state of needing more nutrients to recover. And if you're not giving it those nutrients, it's not going to recover as effectively, quickly, and fully as we want it to. So nutrition plays a paramount role in the recovery process, but it's often not really discussed or talked about until someone goes really far down the cycle into recovery of, oh, I should pay attention to that.
Yeah, I'm ashamed to admit, but I gained 80 pounds after my stroke within 2 years. So that was real tough. I mean, the mental aspect of it, and nobody told me it going out of the hospital or in therapy, nutrition is going to be a big part of this. I didn't find out till 3 or 4 years later when I got on a pre-diabetes program, for my diet. Does that Is the stroke causing that, or is it just I'm not sure what I'm asking. Is it because I haven't followed guidelines or I'm doing stuff that I think is right, but it's not?
So nutrition's complicated and I don't want you to think that it's oh my goodness, it's I did something wrong. You were in a state of mind where you were trying your best. So I would never kind of make yourself feel guilty or ashamed in any matter that we're looking at this. I want you to take an empowered approach and understand something. So first off, there's a lot of emotions that go in with stroke recovery and we need to acknowledge that to start with. I think another part is this awakening of, okay, what can I do? This thing happened to me, but I'm alive and I can recover. I can be resilient, but I know it's going to take an extra effort. But I'm going to take an empowered approach and feed my body the nutrients that it needs. Oftentimes, disease states are looked at in silos and they really shouldn't be. So you kind of read off all my credentials in the beginning, and one of those was a certified diabetes educator. And just to reemphasize, you might say, well, you're a heart, you're vascular. What does that have to do with diabetes? Well, if you have high blood sugar levels, that's going to affect your vascular system. It makes your blood more sticky. It makes more of the blood thicker and harder to flow well throughout the body. So these are all connected. And so we need to be looking at a whole person approach to intervention in order to really understand how we can optimize all of these things. So taking that empowered approach of, okay, that's what happened, but look at where I am now and the things that I'm implementing now is how I want you to frame it. And I also want you to realize, okay, this is a cardiometabolic disease that if I can optimize all of these risk factors from blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, I can prevent this from happening again. And so that empowered control, the empowered approach is going to help you move forward in a positive light and feel more proactive in your health.
I wound up losing the 80 pounds. I got back down. So it took me another 2 years to lose it, but I did lose it. Um, I guess where I want to go now is improving nutrition for me was difficult because I love meat. I'm a steak and potatoes guy, and I cook Italian all the time. I'm really good at that. So, I mean, what are the guidelines for healthy eating? I mean, is there specific nutrients or food groups that we should be using?
Yeah. So kind of look at your plate, right? First off, we have to say this. There's no such thing as a perfect diet. If you love meat and potatoes and you take that out of your diet 100%, you will feel so deprived that once you finally give it and have it, you can overindulge. And that's more damage than actually adding it into your lifestyle, enjoying it, and moving forward. I think a lot of times people are, oh my God, if I eat this one meal, something's going to happen. No one meal is going to ruin your heart health, your brain health, your vascular health. We need to plan those in so that it's not the main thing you're eating every single day, because red meat does have saturated fat. It also has a byproduct that's called TMAO that makes our arteries more stiff. And if we have stiffened arteries, our blood flow can also be not as optimal. So we do need to reduce red meat, but what are you replacing it with? And what we replace it with is more important than avoiding it completely. So for instance, with red meat, can we add in some chicken? Can we add in some fish, omega-3 rich fish? Can we add in some plant-based protein? We want to have more of a diversity that gives us more benefit and rounds out our plate more. What about your non-starchy vegetables? What about your whole grains and your heart healthy fats? I want you to be getting all of the nutrients you need versus being like, oh, I can't have the steak. I can't have the steak. I can't have the steak. And potatoes get a bad rep, but potatoes are actually really heart healthy. They're rich in potassium and fiber and folate, which protect our blood vessels. So how we prepare the potato is important, but the potato itself has no negative effects on heart health. And so I think we need to stop looking at this as kind of this black and white diet, but versus what is a realistic goal for me, and making sure that we are adding it in appropriately.
One second. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so are there specific foods to avoid?
So if I had to tell you something that I would tell people to limit, it would definitely be fried food. It would definitely be things that are very high in saturated fat. So things like your very fatty meats, your fatty red meat, your palm oil, your whole fat dairy in large quantities, your cheese. We know those foods can clog the arteries, make our arteries stiff, and even increase the risk of insulin resistance. But if you enjoy those foods and you add them in smaller amounts in your diet, they can fit. We would just need to make sure we reduce other sources of saturated fat so that we're staying within the guidelines directed for you.
Or one of the difficulties growing up Italian, cannolis, cheesecake, New York cheesecake. Are there methods that you can use to take a lot of the traditional foods that you're used to make them better for you?
Yeah. Yeah. So you have to make sure this is culturally sensitive. If you love a cannoli and you have that as your, sugar intake for the day and you have it a couple times, but you intentionally have it, you eat it, you savor it, it's the best cannoli, you enjoy it. That's fine. As long as everything else is balanced and you continue your lifestyle in a positive way, that can fit in. If you're having a whole cheesecake, yes, that's too much sugar. That's too much saturated fat. That's too much richness. But if you're strategically adding it in, enjoying it, and then moving forward, you actually build this lifestyle where you don't want it every day. You don't want large quantities of it because it's heavy and you feel that. You mindfully realize when I eat a certain way, I feel good. I have more energy. I have more productivity. I sleep better. My GI system thanks me. Like all of these things are important for you to recognize because that's what's going to keep you on track.
What are the most common elements, I guess, such as vegetables, fruits, uh, those things that you um, should be eating?
So we need to have all of our macronutrients. So vegetables are great. Different vegetables provide different nutrients. So variety in the vegetables and our fruits is important. But we also need to make sure you have enough protein and you have enough heart healthy fats from nuts, seeds, legumes, and also getting in your complete aspect of nourishment, right? So a big part I want you to really realize, and I think this will be important, is we've come into this world of living in a fast paced, okay, I have lunch at 12, I have dinner at 6, I have this and this, and, that, and you kind of like program your meals, or you say, I need to fast for 2 days, or I can only do this. But we don't listen to what our body needs. Our bodies are really smart. If you, and what I mean by that is if you tell me, Michelle, every client who says to me, Michelle, I have a sweet tooth. After every dinner, I need something sweet. And I say, okay, I'm going to challenge you. And I say, I want you to pay attention. Did you feed your body earlier in the day? And most times they didn't. They skipped lunch. They had something small. They went to dinner starving. What ends up happening is your blood sugars are dipping throughout the day. And at night, when you finally give your body a second to recognize what's going on, it's telling you, hey, you didn't give me any food during the day, and I don't know when you're going to feed me next. So I need sugar because I need to store it for next time you do that to me. So
Okay.
our bodies tell us a lot of things, and we need to start paying attention and fueling it to what it needs. So in the morning when you wake up, you should be eating within an hour of waking up. Tell your body, wake up. It's time to eat. You fasted. I want your metabolism to working. I'm going to fuel you so you can do all the things you do behind the scenes that I don't see. Then every 3 to 4 hours, it should tell you, I'm hungry, feed me, and you feed it every 3 to 4 hours. You nourish your body and then you give yourself 2 to 3 hours before bed for you to digest. You go to sleep, you have a nice resting period of no food for 10, 12 hours, and then you continue back on. We need to be more intuitive with how we're eating for optimal metabolic health versus, oh, I was told to eat at 12 o'clock. Oh, my dinner is at 7 o'clock. We have to be listening to what our body needs, or else these cravings, these fatigue, that 3 p.m. coffee are signs that we're bottoming out. And we need to realize that we need energy, we need fuel from food, and we need to nourish our body. We got into this world of like, oh, we can't eat any calories, so we're going to eat nothing. And then we binge because you've deprived yourself. So I really want to bring back the mindfulness of what our body needs and to give it what it needs in a well-balanced manner so we can thrive, metabolize the food, utilize those nutrients, and protect our brain and our heart.
Is you mentioned fasting real quick. Is that I've hear a few people that do intermittent fasting. In other words, they don't eat all day and then they eat at night for 2, 3 hours, which is kind of what I do. I have a protein shake for breakfast. I generally don't eat any solid food for breakfast. I skip lunch. Then at night I'll have, whatever I make, is fasting. And I hate to say this, but a couple of people that I know that are doing it are not losing any weight. They're not gaining any weight. They're not doing anything good for themselves. Is that pretty much the fasting? Is it a fad?
So think about what's happening to your body. If you starve your body and only eat for 2 to 3 hours, you're going to be starving in those 2 to 3 hours. You gorging all the things down because you're so hungry. So you're not losing weight because you're not really going into a caloric deficit. But how is your body reacting? You're dumping all of this food and it does not know what to do with that much food at one time. So blood pressure rises, triglycerides rise, blood sugar rises, it struggles. You're telling your pancreas, put out a big dose of insulin, and it simply can't. We are not built to eat that way. Intermittent fasting can work if you eat earlier in the day and then you fast at night when we're supposed to fast and not be eating. When we look at research, we actually see the longer you wait from when you wake up, the higher the risk to eat, the higher the risk of cardiovascular disease, because you're not listening to your circadian rhythm. If you ate between 6 a.m. and 7 p.m., and you fasted from 7 p.m. to, let's say, 7 a.m., you are intermittent fasting. You're fasting for 12 hours when your body shouldn't be eating anyway. I'm pro that from a heart and brain health perspective. But to tell your body, starve until dinner time, there's no way you can get all the nourishment in 2 to 3 hours of eating. And you're making your heart and your body overwork with metabolizing all that food at that one time period.
So in my case, and I probably should, after we're done, set up a consult for me and you for myself. But in my case, for example, I take potassium pills and I should be eating potassium instead of taking the pills. I take the B12s and all of that and a D, I take a bunch of those. Is that unsafe or is it okay if you're eating properly also?
So supplements are to supplement your diet if there's a deficiency or if you can't get it through your food. I would caution with potassium though. If you look at your potassium, if it's prescribed by your doctor, then it might be a higher dose, but over the counter, potassium is limited at 99 milligrams. The reason why is because in pill form, calcium can cause cardiogenic shock and lead to tachycardia, where you have heartbeat irregularities that is very dangerous. When we eat it through food, our body digests it, it urinates what it doesn't need, it effectively utilizes it. In a supplement form, you're at a higher risk of toxicity, so that's where it can be dangerous. Many people are vitamin D deficient. They do need a supplement, and I agree with that, but we need to make sure that the dose is titrated to what you need for you to be successful.
Okay. Um, Avoiding alcohol and sugar and salt, are there substitutes for that, or is that kind of a steadfast thing? I mean, is that impossible to do?
I don't think that,
If you follow me, I mean,
I think the avoidance term needs to be rediscussed, right? So first off, if you're somebody who enjoys some, I don't know, some cookies, some dessert here and there. There's nowhere that says you need to have a no sugar diet. We don't want a high sugar diet, but we need to come to goals that are realistic for you. When you say no, 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 avoid, 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 you end up binging when it's available to you. And that's when we get into trouble. So I would assess where that can come in. With alcohol, some people can drink one glass of any beverage and be fine with that 2-3 times a week, enjoy it socially, and it doesn't impact their heart health. Others, when they have 1 or 2 glasses, their heart goes into AFib and arrhythmias, and they can't have the alcohol because of the symptoms it causes. So we don't want to eliminate. It's more about understanding the amount that's realistic for you, and that's the right amount where it won't cause any damage. But I've seen so many clients who will come to me and be like, oh, I don't eat anything with anything more than 1 milligram of sodium, I won't touch. I'm like, do you realize that that's not like, that's extreme? We need salt. We don't need to be on a no salt diet. It's how much salt you're consuming and doing it a way where your body won't tighten the arteries or where it won't cause damage to the vascular lining, but can still be included in a way that we enjoy. I want to stress this. Food is not what am I trying to say? A calculation. Food brings us pleasure. It's in every single place we go, whether it's social gatherings, family gatherings, travel. There's always food. We need food to thrive. We need to enjoy food. And I don't want anyone to take away that pleasure. You know, a lot of the stroke diets or the heart healthy diets are out there. People always look at them as, oh, it's so bland. It's going to have no flavor. I can't eat this way. I'd rather not do it. That's not how it should be. It should be flavorful. It should be delicious. It should be enjoyable. But we need to personalize that to what that means for you, because what your delicious is not maybe what my deliciousness is. And so we need to make sure that we're doing this in a way that's a lifelong plan, because I want you to live a long and healthy life, enjoying food and making it a lifestyle, not a diet. When you say avoid, then you also have probably cheat meals in your vocabulary. And I don't like that. This is a lifestyle. This is not a diet. This is something that you do and you didn't eat the healthiest meal. Okay. Next meal is a new opportunity. That's what we focus on.
You find that a lot of your clients are more, it's a psychological question, I guess, are so concentrated on avoiding or omitting food, different types of food, that they don't recognize or don't want to see what the correct foods are.
No, I don't think it's that. I think we're just in this mindset of fear mongering and saying, no, 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 you have to be on a low carb diet. You need to go carnivore. You need to go keto. You can't eat this, 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 and this. And people like definite no's. It helps them to stay on track for a period of time, but they don't work long term. Most clients who come to see me are a lot of them, I would say 8 out of 10 are already like, they've removed a lot of foods that are known not to be heart healthy or brain healthy. And what they didn't include though, is all the foods they need to add into their diet. And so they're very nutrient deficient. And so they're willing to say, Michelle, what am I missing? Because I feel tired. I feel fatigued. I feel bloated. I don't feel well. Or I feel fine, but my numbers don't show it that way. Or I know I'm missing things. Like many people will also come to me on an extreme approach. They'll be like, I've gone vegan, but like my muscle mass is deteriorating. And like, I don't know what to do to get enough protein and enough nutrients. What do I need to supplement with? And so we work on nutrient adequacy. My job is to take your lifestyle, merge it with the science, and make sure you're getting the vitamins and minerals you need to optimally thrive for your brain health, your heart health, your kidney health, and for you to functionally age gracefully. My job is not to convert you into any type of diet that you don't like or you won't eat. If you tell me I can't give up meat, I'm not going to take meat out of your diet because that's not realistic. I'm not the food police. I'm your partner. I want you to live a long and healthy life, and I want you to do this for the rest of your life. So I want you to tell me your challenges. I want you to tell me your food likes and dislikes so we can create a plan together that will optimize your blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, your heart health, brain health, your blood flow, so you could stay out of the hospital doing the things you love to do and thrive. That's what I want for you. And I think a lot of times people get the sheet on the hospital. Here's a do not eat salt sheet. Like, that's not helpful. Or here's a don't eat all of these things, but those are the things I love. How can you tell me not to eat it? I just went through this traumatic experience and now you're telling me to give up my favorite food. That's my only comfort. There's a
Yeah.
lot that goes into this that we need to take into account.
So what I hear, and it's probably my way of thinking, is keto, Mediterranean, mind diet. I mean, sticking to those specifics diets is not as good as tailoring a plan for a person, correct?
So those are really good rubrics, but I really want you to tone into what you like and dislike to personalize it, right? So the mind diet, the Mediterranean diet can work beautifully for many people if it's done well, if the meals are well balanced, if you're getting all of the nutrients that we know help with fighting inflammation and helping optimize cardiometabolic health. But many times there's culture that, well, that's not really how somebody eats. And so it's not realistic for them and their family and what they like to do. And so it needs to be more personalized for long-term success.
Kind of a weird question, but is doing this kind of holistic approach, I should say, or science-based approach, is it more expensive at the grocery store than doing whatever you're doing now?
I mean, it depends what you're doing, right? Like
Okay.
if somebody were eating out every single meal of the day, no, it would be cheaper to go to the grocery store and do all of those things, right? Depending where you live, all of those things. But I think there are ways to do it in a budget friendly manner. And there's way to do it realistically. Before COVID, I used to work in New York City. I didn't have an online virtual practice. I used to work in my office in New York City and nobody cooked. Everybody would put their shoes in their oven, and they would just eat outside. But people were still able to assemble meals and make things nice and easy. These are very busy individuals. So we need to take that into account. Some of these other diets or these cookbooks, you're like, oh my God, I'll be in the kitchen for the whole day. I don't have that time. So when it comes to affordability, when it comes to accessibility, when it comes to time in your lifestyle, those things are taken into account when it comes to personalization. Because the whole idea is if you can't do this in a year, there's no point in doing it today. There isn't. This is a
Okay.
lifestyle plan. So we need to be looking at this as the lifelong. And I also would really emphasize many people like to do things in extreme. And this is why diets don't work. Oh, the mind diet, I'm going to buy all these foods, I'm going to cook all these recipes. And then that does not last for more than maybe a month or two at most. But if you were to kind of choose and prioritize, this is what I do with my clients. We prioritize what are the 3 to 4 things we need to focus on that's going to yield you the most results. We focus on those, we add in the principles, and we start making habit formation change. And before you know it, you're doing 70% of this easily because you fit it into what you are used to doing. So
Oh,
you're creating these long-term habits that aren't burdensome, that aren't overwhelming, that doesn't overhaul your whole life because we don't have time for that in this day and age.
this is a kind of out of the air question. Processed foods. I mean, if you're doing more seafood and chicken, are you eating frozen seafood as chickens, or are you trying to get fresh?
So I don't count that as processed. So if somebody takes chicken and they freeze it for you right then and there, they can retain the nutrients more. It actually might be more fresher than fresh. So I'm okay with either one and what's accessible to you. When I categorize processed foods, I'm talking more about taking something, putting into heavy machinery and making a byproduct, adding additives to preserve it. So let's just as a comparison for chicken, if you were taking chicken and you made chicken nuggets, as an example, and you bought that in the freezer aisle, that's highly processed. And we know that individuals who have had a stroke and they eat more processed foods, they get an increase in something called cystatin C, which is an inflammatory byproduct that happens in our arteries and in our kidneys that can increase another subsequent stroke within 5 years. So we do want to limit processed foods. Do we need to eliminate them? No, but we do need to limit them. And that's an important thing. But when we say process, it does not equal convenience. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you
Yeah,
can get chicken tenders that are just chicken or grilled chicken that's just put into the freezer and you just heat it up. But if you're getting the ones that are pulverized and mixed with BHT and BHA and all these things, it's at a different level of how our body recognizes those substances. So convenience does not equal processed. And there's a difference. And I think a lot of times they're used interchangeably, but they are their own category when it comes to how our bodies process it.
and all of this processing of this new foods and diets, doesn't it make it easier to recover as well?
So when we have more fresh foods, when we have more of a balanced foods, of course, when we're in recovery, we need adequate lean protein. We need adequate vitamin C. We need adequate amounts of folate and zinc and copper. We need a lot of nutrients because our bodies are in, okay, something happened. I gotta to stop this inflammation. I got to do something. We're in hyperactive mode. If we don't actually give those nutrients in adequate quantities, our bodies kind of overuse the calories and it leads to malnutrition. So what we eat is very, very important. And it's unfortunate, but I've heard a lot of stories where after a stroke, you go to rehab and the food that's presented to you in rehab is not what we would call a brain healthy or a heart healthy diet. And so people are confused. They'll take home the ticket to say, okay, these are what I need to eat, but they're like, this is super processed and this is that and this is that. And they're not, it should be taught of what we should be eating for optimal recovery. But unfortunately, a lot of times with hospital systems, it's about budget. It's about making people happy, about eating what they're used to and what's going to give them a positive remark. And I, in my training, I was in hospitals, I was in stroke rehabilitation centers, and it was really hard to change those menus over because there was a lot of bureaucracy in the mix. So it's tough. It's tough being a patient and individual trying to navigate this system. And I understand that. From the health anxiety, from the misinformation, I really encourage your listeners to be asking good questions, to ask the why. If someone says you should be on this diet, why? What does it do for me? I spend the time to explain, hey, listen, I want you to eat your carrots, but if you don't pair it with hummus or guacamole or walnuts, you're not going to absorb the beta carotene because beta carotene needs a fat for absorption. Now you remember, my carrots have beta carotene. It has a fat soluble vitamin. It needs fat to be absorbed. So to get the best bang for my buck for my carrot, I got to add fat. Now you understand why I made that pairing connection.
Yeah,
So I tell you this because I'm a very big advocate of explaining the why, because I find many people don't. I find that many people go home after a stroke not even knowing what happened.
yeah,
Someone told them, oh, you banged your head. Someone said, oh, you just had a trauma. No one understands that you can do something about it. So you need to ask questions. You need to get why answers. And if you can't find it from your practitioner, you got to switch your practitioner. You got to have people on your team who care about you and will take the time to explain what is going on, because it will reduce health anxiety. It will reduce fear. It will build your confidence and it will make you feel like I can do something about this versus feeling hopeless.
yeah. I have to agree with you there because it took me several years. I'm 8.5 years post stroke, and it took me several years to realize, hey, I'm the captain of my own team. I can hire and fire who I want. You
Yes,
know,
you can.
that's a big deal, and it was a big deal. It made my recovery remarkable after that. Finding the right neuro PTs and all of that. Now I have to add nutritionist, but anyway. Um, so is it, and this kind of another left field question, I guess, is when you're buying foods, are you looking at the ingredients or at the nutrients?
Both.
Okay,
So
okay,
so the food industry is made for money. They want you to buy the product, love the product, be addicted to the product, and keep buying that product. That's what they want, right? So for instance, in my course, I bring up this label. It's I'm trying to think exactly the words. It's like Morning Star Farms, like vegan chicken nuggets or plant-based chicken tenders, like perfect breakfast. You look at the nutrition facts. It's low in salt, it's low in carbs, it's low in calories, and it has 30 grams of protein. Woohoo! People will buy it. Wow, I get 30 grams of protein and I'm not even eating any animals. Wow, this is going to be great. You look at the ingredients. It's like water, soy isolate, corn oil, maltodextrin, like all these things. It's like, what are you eating?
Yeah,
So you got to be smart, right? You got to look at the ingredient list. You have to look at the nutrition facts label, and you have to know, what are you looking for, right? If you're going to a peanut butter, for instance, and you're like, oh, wow, this is too much fat. Your peanut butter is a fat. You're using it as a fat in your meal. That's okay. If you're going into a yogurt and you're like, oh my God, so much carbs, yogurt comes from dairy. It is a carbohydrate. We don't want added sugars, but you need to understand the category to understand how to read a food label. And I think a lot of times people are just looking at, oh, I need this to be 100 calories or less. Well, if you do that, you're not looking at nutrients at all, which is why I don't recommend calorie counting. Other people will look at carbs. Other people look at sodium. You can't just look at one element, because these manufacturers do a lot of consumer testing, and they're looking to see, what does my audience want in their food label? I'm going to manipulate the food label by portion size to make them happy. And we need to look beyond that. We need to look beyond marketing and labels. And I know it's hard, but I teach you this, and anyone who works with you should teach you this so that you can be a smart consumer. It's the only way to read between the lines, because I don't have an agenda, an alternate agenda, right? Like, I'm not here selling you supplements. I'm not here selling you a food product. I'm here to give you the facts so that next time you go to the grocery store, next time you're traveling with your family or your friends, you're like, no, this is what makes me feel good. And this is what I know is going to help my arteries, because I feel it. I see it in my test results. Like, this is how I live my life now because I feel good doing it.
wonderful. How do patients or survivors or stroke warriors get in touch with their nutritionist? Is it through their PCP, through a therapist? How do they find out?
So it really depends. There are some dietitians that are affiliated with their cardiologist or their neurologist. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes there's a hospitalist who's kind of a generalist who may see you in the hospital that you can ask to talk with. You could start there. Sometimes if you're looking for a specialist, it's a lot of specialists like me also, we don't accept, we're out of pocket. So it may be through, you can do a reimbursement through insurance afterwards, like a super bill, but it may be an out of pocket search. So it really depends on what exactly you're looking for. But I would, whenever you're looking for a nutritionist, specifically if you're a stroke survivor, you should be asking for someone who specializes in cardiovascular disease, because they understand stroke and the vascular system. And a generalist or someone who just may not understand the intricacies that happen with certain medications you're on, with the vascular system and improving the specific needs that you want. So you can ask for a referral from them to see if they can help you. And go from there. I would also, you kind of have to, like you said, look through and see who you're going to hire and kind of assess their credentials. You really want someone who is a registered dietitian, someone who's a specialist in what your medical conditions, and who you're going to have the same approach with, right? If you're coming to me and you're like, Michelle, I want to lose 80 pounds in 2 weeks, I'm like, I'm not your girl, because that's not realistic.
Yeah,
So you
exactly.
you should have a conversation with the person you're going to hire, as well. I think that's also important. I always recommend everyone meet with me over the phone for 15 minutes, have a conversation, no obligation. If I can't help you, I'll refer you to someone else who may be able to help you. And that way we can see if we're a fit. And that's an important piece of the puzzle too. So do your homework. They're,
Yeah,
like anything else, they're great practitioners and they're not so great practitioners. And you need to kind of read between the lines to know what's the right fit for you.
what are the first How can you tell that you've got a good nutritionist? Is it in the questions they ask in the first evaluation?
I think it really comes down to their scope of practice, their, what are they telling you, right? If someone's bringing you out a plate from 1989 and showing you this is what you need to do, that's not really enough details or gravity, right? If they're not understanding your medication and supplements and understanding the whole scope, you kind of want to know their background. How long have they been doing this for? Do they have success stories, testimonials? What's their approach? What's their accountability structure, right? So for me, sometimes this doesn't work for everyone. I'm a very big person. Like, I am not holding back any information. I want to teach you how to fish, and then I want you to go fishing. I want to give you the skills. I want to teach you everything. I can stay with you. We can have touch points later on, but I don't want you to be a forever client with me where I have to see you every single week for the rest of your life. I want to teach you everything. I want to get you in a really great place. I want your blood tests to be optimal for 2 consecutive, 3 consecutive, 4 consecutive times, so however much you feel comfortable. And then I want you to thrive. My model is not, hey, I want you, my client, I want to see you every single week. I want to know exactly what you're doing I want to teach you how to live this life. And so you also have to see if that works for you. Some people want the accountability until they're for 40, 50, 60 years. I have programs that give you touch points after we've done the intense work, but I don't hold your hand forever because I want to reach more people and I want to help more people. So I want to teach you and I want you to go your merry way.
How do people get a hold of you? Because you do virtual, right?
Yeah, so I'm virtual. I'm virtual. You can go on my website at entirelynourished.com. You can join my email list. I give out a lot of complimentary tips on my email list, on my Instagram, on my LinkedIn. I'm very big about explaining everything in all of my posts to educate. And then I have one-on-one programs. I have group programs. I have a lot of variety of different offerings that you can review on my website at entirelynourished.com. If you have questions, you can always shoot me an email as well. My contact information is on my website as well.
And if they do a program with you do a 15-minute free consultation at first,
Yep,
and then you have 3 different programs, correct?
exactly.
3 different levels, I mean, of programs. Well, that's very cool. Anything else you want to add today?
No, I just hope that this encourages someone to pay attention to their diet because it can really improve your life, your quality of life, and really build a future where you are nourishing your body. Focus on the nourishment of the body. It's so, so vital for your health. And I hope it was helpful and encouraging and empowering to your listeners.
Well, it was for me. So thank you very much, Michelle. You have a great day.
My pleasure. You too.
All right.
Bye.